Us, welcome to Does It Matter? Um, we used to be food. A long time ago, when humans were purely herbivorous, which is a very long time ago, millions of years ago, and before we became very efficient tool makers, we were food. And then even when we did become somewhat better at making tools, and we would sometimes kill things to eat them, we were still food. So for a very long time, humans were food more often than they made other things into food. But for a very long time, probably over 1,000,000 years, humans and hominids, Homo erectus, Neanderthalis, and later on Cro-Magnon about 400,000 years ago, emerged, and we ate everything. Everything was food to us. And certainly humans were still being food themselves sometimes for other creatures, but it certainly became the exception rather than the rule. Humans, even occasionally in dire circumstances, became food to each other. But in the nature of that food hierarchy, children are really cute because they could easily be food. They're small, they're weak, and under the right circumstances, they could be eaten. Archaeological remains of children's bones, infants' bones, particularly in Neanderthal fires. So we know that under certain circumstances of famine, Neanderthals would more commonly than Cro-Magnons consume even infants, and certainly children. And it's not unknown amongst Cro-Magnons either, though it was less common from the archaeological record. So children had to be really cute. They've evolved to be very appealing, very cute to their ancestors because their fate depends upon it, and they don't want to become food. And I think as men in particular, we forget that those instincts that women have also, who were next in line to be food, that everything could eat them. Men are much stronger than women, faster, and much more capable of dealing with predators. Even fit, strong women are generally substantially disadvantaged compared to men of even the same size, and men are generally, due to sexual dimorphism, significantly larger than women, carrying a lot more muscle weight, even when they're the same size. And generally men are bigger as well. So women were terribly vulnerable for all of human history, terribly vulnerable. And so they were closer in that food hierarchy to being food. Not as close as children, but close. So I think it behooves us as men to remember that at the top of the pyramid are men, males. We can kill anything. Whales, giant megafauna. We wiped a lot of them out. We can kill anything. Men are coalitional hunters. We're the greatest coalitional hunters that have ever existed on the planet that we know of. Nothing is safe from us. And so we haven't really been food for other things more than occasionally, in very rare exceptions, for a long time. Probably only other groups of coalitional males might threaten to eat us, and even then it would only occur in rare times of famine where they come into contact with each other. So for men, our evolutionary history has been somewhat different. Certainly we died and had higher mortality, more rates of death, more rates of being killed, and probably more rates of being eaten, actually, in actuality. But because we were putting ourselves out there in danger, but we didn't feel like food because generally we were the ones making everything else into food. For women, that hasn't been necessarily the case, and they were constantly in fear of being made into food by someone, even us on occasion. So I think it's shaped a different evolutionary psychology for us that's probably worth reflecting on. And as men, recognise that once we were all food, and for the largest portion of our history, women and children have been very close to being food. And I know it sounds funny and it's weird, but it's probably worth considering in terms of how it shapes our psychology and how it shapes the hypervigilance and greater neuroticism that women and children both have because they're more vulnerable. Worth thinking about.